It is a court ruling with the power to name and shame. Today, the United Nations top court ordered Russia to immediately suspend what Russia is calling a military operation in Ukraine. The International Court of Justice in The Hague made the ruling on a case brought forth by Ukraine. Kyiv says that Russia's invasion is based on false accusations regarding genocide. Russia refused to send a representative to the hearings. Russia claims that it is only intervening in Ukraine to stop a genocide of ethnic-speaking Russians in the eastern Donbass region. But remember, that is where pro-Russian separatists are in control. Will today's ruling, will it change anything on the ground in Ukraine? I put that question earlier to Iryna Venediktova, Ukraine's Prosecutor General.
Today, we hosted Prosecutor of International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, and I hope very much for his proceedings, because it will be the decisions against not state, against concrete individuals, soldiers, their top management, and I hope in the nearest future, the main war criminal of 21st century, President Putin.
Yes,
That's why, yes, we are still in the very brutal and aggressive war.
And I understand that your office may be carefully documenting examples of war crimes that have been committed by Russian forces in Ukraine. The evidence may be mounting. I want to ask you, though, as the legal spokesperson for Ukraine, do you ever expect to see Vladimir Putin in front of an international war crimes court? Do you ever expect to see him brought to justice?
I hope. Actually, I hope. Today, we finished 21st day of war. And I very hope that tomorrow all Ukrainians will see new day. I really hope that we will wake up without new deaths of our children, of our elderly people. And now we have in our national jurisdiction, Ukrainian jurisdiction, more than 2,000 cases of war crimes, cases against crimes against humanity. And what we expected, all of our Ukrainians, all of our citizens, we are all expected for justice. Justice in Ukraine courts, justice in the all international platforms. And of course, I am very appreciated for other prosecutors. We now have 5 other jurisdictions, Poland, Lithuania, Germany, Estonia, and Slovakia, who started their own investigations.
Let me ask you, I know beyond Vladimir Putin, who else in Russia do you hold accountable for the war against your country?
We have, except these 2,000 cases, we have great anchor case. In this case, we have now 63 suspects. This is persons, Defense Ministry of Russian Federation, Interior Ministry, Head of Intelligence, and other top politicians and top militaries. And they are Speaker of Parliament too. We have very influential agents of propaganda from Russian Federation. And I'm sure that this list of suspects will be more and more with each day. I'm sure that it will be near 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. We work very hardly for this result.
Iryna Venediktova, the Ukrainian Prosecutor General. Ms. Venediktova, we appreciate your time, appreciate you sharing some insights into your work as well. Thank you.
It's in the cyber realm that Putin is most likely to strike. The Kremlin has long sought to weaponise the internet as a means of conducting a form of asymmetric warfare in the post-Soviet era. And so we must expect nations like ours to become the target of escalating cyber attacks. The very worst cyber attacks can, of course, inflict society-wide damage with enduring ramifications.
Well, that was the Australian Defence Minister sounding the alarm over Russia's weapons of war in cyberspace. From Berlin to London to Washington, there has never been more concern over a possible cyber attack on orders from Moscow. But what about cyber attacks launched against Russia? My next guest tonight is Rob Chaplin. Rob is head of cyber service at Phalanx Cyber. He's also known as an ethical hacker. Rob, it's good to have you on the day. We got in touch with you because of this title, ethical hacker. You know that 3 weeks ago, Ukraine appealed for a global army to convene of IT experts to take on Vladimir Putin. We understand that more than 300,000 people answered that call. Is there any news from the cyber front tonight?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, the IT army of Ukraine, as it's being called, this 300,000 strong IT army is amazing in a way that we managed to get this many people together to try and attack back at Russia. And what they're doing so far, they're having quite an impact actually on Russia's main websites like the Kremlin and other websites. And what they're doing is something mostly called denial of service attacks. Now, what this does really is it targets websites with so much data that they kind of fall over. So you imagine all those 300,000 people are pointing their computers at one website simultaneously. And maybe they've all got 10 computers or 100 computers each they can use. That floods that website with so much data that it just stops working. And this is what we're seeing with a lot of Russian government websites, is they're getting flooded in this way. They stop working and it takes them hours or maybe even days to come back. But it's a bit like shining a torch in someone's eyes. So it blinds them for a few minutes until you take the torch off them, and then they recover quite quickly. So it's quite low impact at the moment.
Well, Rob, let me interrupt you. Let me just ask you, though. I mean, this sounds, though, I mean, it may be low impact, but the impact could be much bigger than we know. I mean, could these IT soldiers, could they be responsible for what we're seeing on the ground? The fact that Russia's military seems to be much more discombobulated than anyone in the West expected?
I mean, undoubtedly, they're having some impact. I wouldn't say they're having a huge impact on the actual military hardware and the invasion, everything like that. I think there are other issues going on there, but there's certainly some level of impact. And amongst those 300,000 people, there are some very, very skilled hackers. You know, not all these people are absolute amazing IT whizzes experts, but some of them are, and some of them are doing more than these denial of service, and they are getting into these government websites and they are stealing data. They're doing more disruptive activities. So there's definitely an impact from this army, and they are proving to be very effective.
Would you say that this cyberspace, is this where you can try to level the playing field between a nuclear superpower, Russia, and a much smaller power, Ukraine?
Definitely. I mean, one of the major advantages of doing this over the cyberspace is that everyone from around the world can get involved. You know, if we were to get involved militarily, then that starts off a whole other thing. But from the cyberspace perspective, you can get involved from anywhere in the world. And you can attack, in a way, Russia, and there isn't the same consequences of doing that. So yes, a small country like Ukraine can fight back with the resources of the entire world cyber community, and also the cyber community coming together to give them defensive tools and things as well to help out.
I have the feeling, Rob, that you're a true matrix man. I understand that you are a world leader in what is known as red teaming. Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So red teaming is a full-scale criminal attack on an organization. So most of the time I work with the private sector, looking after businesses, making sure they can't get hacked, which is obviously a big threat at the moment. And red teaming simulates a proper criminal attack. So I'm often just given the name of the company and a particular objective. So, you know, can you get in and steal this bit of data or steal this computer or whatever? And I will combine technical cyber attacks, so a bit like you see on the movies when there's hackers banging away at keyboards and there's cubes spinning on the screens and things like that. Combine that with what's called physical intrusion or social engineering attacks. So I will dress up as an employee with a fake ID badge and everything, or perhaps as a telecoms engineer or a COVID-19 inspector or whatever else. I can convince my way past security guards, receptionists, get inside the building of the company I'm targeting. So I'm physically there, and then I will sit down with a laptop in a meeting room or steal a computer and then use that, because that bypasses most of the cybersecurity defenses.
You've done this already.
Combination. Yeah, I've done this probably 200 times against different companies all around the world.
So you're posing as someone else, going inside a building, a physical building, getting into its cyberspace to launch attacks. I mean, you're going from the real world to the virtual world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I spend, probably a week planning how I'm going to break in, watching movement patterns around the building, who coming in, who's going out, making fake ID passes. Then I go in, and then once I'm inside, I will act as an employee. I will sometimes just say good morning to people when they come in, make a cup of coffee as if I'm a real employee. It's really good fun. And then I'll
Can you tell us what's been your biggest success? I mean, are you able to disclose that or describe it?
Well, I can't really talk too much about an individual company, but I did do one, a large multinational company, very well defended, brilliantly defended head office. But I dressed up as a telecoms engineer and went to one of their small satellite offices, pretended there'd been a network fault between their head office and their office. So I had a high-vis jacket on, I had a box full of tools and cables and things. And I basically got invited in the front door, taken up in a lift. And the guy that I was taken up even said that we don't even use your company, but come in anyway. So he let me in, sat me at a desk, and let me essentially let me hack into their network. Although I was obviously nice and friendly and pretending I wasn't the hacker.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I know if we had photos, we wouldn't be able to show them because we don't want to blow your cover. But it's fascinating hearing about this, Rob. Please stay in touch because I have a feeling we will be wanting to talk with you again. Rob Chaplin, we appreciate you sharing your story tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.